this is actually part 2. The first part was about the Speed King pedal. And it was kind of an open declaration to the fact that I've never owned one, I've never played one, and I was wondering, should I get my hands on one and see what it's all about? Because the greatest, at least some of the greatest drummers in history played them, some of which exclusively. Buddy Rich, John Bonham, Ringo Starr was with Ludwig, so we kind of assume he did, although I haven't found an interview that talks about that. Phil Collins, Charlie Watts, among others. So that previous video was all about me saying, what is it about this pedal? I gotta get it and see what it's all about. Having never played it. So I found one. And I go through that, and please check it out if you're interested in the story of these 2 posts. But if you're not, I'll just sum it up here. There are immediate signs of anybody that knows mechanics. There are notably 2 weak spots with this pedal. And I went on to discover others. So I'm just going to get the bad news out first. This one, I found one. And you can see here, they have added an extra part. See the black? That part was not there. They added that, the previous owners, because one of the teeth that come down that holds that pin broke off. Probably not during playing, but it probably fell on the ground and popped off. Okay. As I was restoring it, if you saw in the previous video, there was rust everywhere. So I got I went at it, cleaned it all up. This was completely filled with rust, everything. It was rust everywhere, looked really crappy. All of this, I didn't sandblast it, but I did go at it with steel wool. Turned out to be the best one. Really fine-grained steel wool, WD-40. And got it to a place that I like. While I was doing that and cleaning this, I was taking apart this hinge mechanism, this, the hinge plate, quote unquote, and was cleaning it out and putting in a new pin. And man, it was hard. It was caked in. I had to go at it with a hammer. Crazy. And I was really happy about myself because I didn't break anything doing it. As I'm putting in the sleeve, I guess you'd call it not a bearing, but it's a I want to say sleeve. Right at the bottom here, there are yet again 2 more teeth. You can see how thin that area is. See this? That's all you got. And you can see on this end, right there and right there. Now some of you probably already see what happened. As I'm putting in the sleeve, because there's a pin that goes through on both sides, and I found the right size and everything, tighten this down. And by the way, the pedal works great now. But as I was doing that, this area right here, let me show you, broke. right there. You can see the pin. You can see the rod. Here's what it's supposed to look like. That little spot right there popped off, broke. I was so mad at myself and at this pedal, but mostly at myself, because it was a stupid mistake, and having paid money for it, now, you know, probably no chance of selling it back. I could probably sell the parts if I wanted to for the cost to get my money back. Absolutely, I could actually. Seeing as I have the original beater and the rocker still in good shape. Yes. Now, see that? You can see it. I just extended that hinge, you know, with a steel, I don't know what you want to call that. But you can get those pieces at the hardware store for 20 cents, you know, nothing. And on the back of this board here, on the back of the plate, you see this little opening. So I was able to sneak in a little nut and bolt. There's the nut in there. There's the, you know, the screw, and that holds this part in. And then on the other end, I don't know if you can see it. There it is right there. See? And so the sleeve, the pedal, that those two teeth there that are now broken, are going over top of the sleeve. And I had to make this hole bigger. There's one right there. Make it bigger to accept the rod. And now it works. Great. I was mad at myself, but it works. And I can finally play a clean pedal, look down and see it clean, and give it a try. And this little thing right there, if the other one does that, I'm just going to do the same thing. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I could have potentially the same scenario up here happen. See? So when you look at that, there's just a very little spot of metal that's holding that pin down. And that's taking all of your power, right? When you play it. So it's kind of scary to have a pedal rely on spots. Notably, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Because each spot accepts those pins. So you got 6 teeth on this pedal that are, you know, stress spots. I don't know why they did that. And when you go online, here's the second story. You go online, and I was trying to find, I was looking originally to replace the board, right? I was like, well, okay, before I do this video, I'm going to replace the board. And I found one. Turns out, you see these pedals, they're broken all over the place. You can find tons that are broken. So I was like, well, let me just find one. Maybe I can get the rocker and this footboard. It was missing some other stuff. Turns out, the guy said to me, I thought I had a good one. He said, did you see there's another spot? It was welded. I was like, what are you talking about? On the rocker here, something, this is called the rocker. There was a spot here that was clearly like rusted away, and he welded it back together again. Okay. I saw other on the board, tons where this was broken. These 2 teeth right here. I saw the same thing that happened to me on other ones. I mean, it's hilarious to go into that whole area, which is what I was happy to do, because this whole process taught me about that stuff, and now I know firsthand. You can find broken speaking pedals everywhere. And what's startling is that they still cost money. The footboards, the rocker, this part right here, I don't know what you can't really call that the hinge plate, but I guess you could. All of it still costs money. Even a broken Speed King costs the price of I saw one case a direct drive Gibraltar. Old Camcos and Iron Cobras. A broken Speed King still costs that price or more. And I mean, it was startling until I played one. And so now let's go into what it feels like. Part 2 of part 2. Now, let's get this out in the open. I am not a double bass player. I play jazz, I play blues, pop. I'm a single pedal guy. I do have a double bass pedal. I have 3 of them actually, because I enjoy the physicality of it, just working on it like that. But I'm nowhere close to performing with it yet. So anyway, but I do a lot of stuff on my single pedals, and I have a whole bunch of them, and I've had a whole bunch that I've since then sold. So before we get into this, jazz, blues, rock, all of the popular styles I play. And I play heel up technique, I play heel down technique, I play heel toe technique, I play toe heel technique. I don't really swivel that much, but I can play all over the board. I was thinking, should I do this video and show me playing it? And I was like, I've seen videos like that. They're not really educational as far as the pedal is concerned. For me, you're just looking at me playing it and seeing what I can do to confirm the fact that I can play a drum. That's not what this is about. If that's what you're looking for, there's a lot of other videos like that. I'm just going to talk. So I hope, and if you want to see my abilities on the kit, go to check out one of my shorts so you'll see if you think I'm valid in what I'm saying or not. So moving on. I finally got this pedal to a place that I could play, right? And long story short, I'm going to keep it. And I'm probably going to use it, even live. But not for everything. And I learned a lot about this. Now here it is. This pedal feels extremely light. It's probably the lightest pedal I've ever played. And I'm not talking about, I guess I'm talking about weight, but I'm talking about feel. The feeling under your foot is extremely light. And it's not necessarily reassuring. It's probably the one with the least amount of reassurance of all of my pedals, all the ones I'm going to show you. This is going to be a pedal showdown, incidentally. They're all here. It was a very strange experience at first. Very eye-opening experience, and it taught me a lot about my other pedals. The only way I can explain it is, well, first of all, the footboard comes down a lot more on this pedal than on my other pedals that I'm going to show you. I'd say, to me, and I can't adjust the rocker, right? It's fixed. It's in, that's how this pedal is. You can't move this angle. That's what it is. I could technically shorten this latch, but that's how it's sold. And I noticed immediately that the footboard came down a lot more than my other pedals, whereas the beater would hit the head and my footboard was still kind of up. This one, it's down a lot more, in my opinion. That adds a little bit because it feels like you got to go further to get the note. Whereas if the footboard is raised up, which I like, you don't have to go so far down to get the beater to move. You can't adjust this at all, incidentally. The beater, like I said, it's fixed. You cannot adjust this pedal. But that's okay. I think I could get used to that. I could learn about that. I figured out what this is all about. Because in the first video, I said, I don't know what that's about. I don't get that. And and so I'm thinking about this, and in context, you got to put this pedal in context to understand what this is all about. There's some pedals back in the day when the Speaking was out. There were also pedals, I don't know if it was out at the same time, but a lot of pedals were doing something like the John Gray pedal does, where the hinge plate, the pin, is not at the end of the board, the footboard. So you have a spot like the John Gray pedal, you have the hinge actually pushing down on the hinge can control the angle of the pedal. And so the John Gray pedal can do this. There are other pedals that can do this. There's a lot of French pedals that can do this too. And you can have a rocking kind of motion with your heel like this that can help you do repeated beats, right? So it's not just a burst heel toe, but right? You can actually carry on. That is what you get when you have with this pedal. So in context, they were providing the John Gray, I'm going to say John Gray, but there were a lot of other pedals that did that. They were providing that rocking motion, and when you flip it, this falls back, the hinge falls back, and now it's no longer the rocking motion with the hinge engaged. It just sits there, and you have a classic style footboard where the footboard ends at the hinge. Most pedals today do this. But back in the day, it was very popular to have this, to have the pedal rotate around the hinge. It was very, very popular. That's why they did it. So looking at that, that is a nice little innovation, a step. They recognized that it was cool to have both, and this would appeal to both kinds of players. If you wanted that rocking thing, you could do it. If you didn't, you just flipped it. This would just, gravity would pull the hinge plate down, and you would have your classic footboard approach. Incidentally, heel toe works fine with this. It's a little scary because and I know, that that pin is only held on by a little bit of metal. So it is a little scary. And what you typically see is exactly what I saw when I took that pin off. The sleeves were completely worn out. It was as if there was just like a flake of metal left, because that's all you got. So eventually that area is going to break or get worn down, where you're going to have to do exactly what I did. Make an extension, which is not that big of a deal. You drill one hole, you open the other hole up to accept whatever kind of sleeve you have, and that's it, and it's fine. There's your pedal mechanically speaking. Now, when I played it, like I said, it's the lightest pedal I've ever played. Now, I've played Axis pedals, Camco pedal, Tama, all those pedals are aluminum. I've even played some of those plastic Capella pedals, French pedals. Plastic you would think is lighter. We're not really talking about the weight when I say light. I'm talking about the feel. It's extremely light. And what does that do? When you have a light pedal, it lends itself to a feeling of breath in your bass drum. You're not focusing on the pedal because you can barely feel it. You're focusing on what's left, your bass drum. And I think the bass drum sounds the same pretty much, depending on the pedals I'm using. This one and the extreme other end, no. There's a different sound, and I'm going to get to that too. But the fact that my mind couldn't feel the pedal very much, I focused on what was left, which was the bass drum, and my ear heard more breath in my bass drum when I played this pedal. And because I heard more breath, I was able to use that breath in my playing differently than with the other pedals. I could say the breath was like that feeling when you play like an old 60s kit with thin shells, and you got the feeling like the wood, it's not going to break, but you have a feeling like the wood is vibrating, like the bass drum is shaking like that when you play. When you're playing, not when you're out there, but the feeling you get, the immediate interaction. And I'm going to get to that too. So much stuff I want to share with you. I'm hoping that this will help you not make the same mistakes I've made in your bass drum pedal hunting. Anyway, so with this pedal, I would say that it has the most breath out of any of my pedals. Needless to say, the fact that it broke, it was already broken, right here on the rocker. Then this part broke. Then I went and looked online to replace it and found I don't know how many other Speed Kings that were broken all over the internet, but still asking for good prices. It really got to me. And I said there has to be a piston-driven pedal that is durable. Let me go find one. Because if I end up wanting to play piston-driven pedals, I have to have a durable one. This would kind of make me nervous on certain gigs. If I ever play it on a gig, I'm gonna have another one right next to this one just in case. I know that sounds crazy because the greats used it, but there's also a quote though that says, Buddy Rich says the only thing that he cared about before the gig was whether his drums were sounding good or not. So he was, he was playing a kit and he wanted the drums to work. He was nervous that they didn't sound good, they weren't tuned properly. Some cymbal arms are held on with a little screw on the bass drum. Some of those fell over. Some of those pivot points, those joints on those cymbal stands broke right in the middle of songs, So anyway, but it got to me. So I said there must be a piston-driven pedal that's durable. Now, when I say that, for those who don't know, there's no springs here. I think if you're watching this video, there's a very good chance that you know. But for the fun of it, there's a piston in there. There's a spring, and it works differently than your typical springs on bass drum pedals. The spring on a bass drum pedal typically is relaxed in its normal position, and pressing down on the pedal creates tension, stretches it. And letting go of that pedal allows it to go back to a state of its least state of stress. This is the opposite. The springs inside here, there are two of them, are already compressed. So there's already energy here that's ready to go. And this is why some people say it's kind of a loaded feeling. When you press down, the piston has a rotating shape on the top of it in here. And when you press down on the pedal, this rotating form moves and allows the spring to release itself from that compressed state. And when the rocker comes back, it goes back to its compressed state. It's a very, very subtle difference, but for sure a difference in the feel of your pedal. And what's the main thing that it does? When it gets down to it, black and white, what it does is you always have a feeling that the pedal is right up under your foot. That's what this pedal feels like. With the piston-driven pedal, it feels like it's always there. And that's because it's always loaded. The springs are always loaded, compressed if you want. But so what does this do? This directly affects how your relationship with the pedal. If it's always under your foot, you have a sense that it's not there as much, because it's always there. There's no minute space between the bottom of your shoe and the pedal. It's just there. It's always on your foot. And so because of that, it creates a very light feel. That's where that lightness comes from. Which is good in some ways, but it's not good in others. Personally, I like to feel my pedal. A little bit. At least a little bit. I'm going to get to this. I like to, how should I say that? I like to have a relationship with the gear. And if I don't know, I don't want to play as if the gear's not there. To me, that's not what my relationship with the drums are. It's not about that. I want the relationship with the drum. I want the relationship with my cymbals, with my sticks, with my gear. I want the return. I don't want to feel like it's like nothing's there and I'm just in la la land, you know, in some kind of dream. I want to feel it. I'm going to get to why I'm keeping this later on, but let's go down now to the other pedals. So as I'm playing the Speed King, I have my other pedals. Now, at that time, I had the Speed King. I brought out my Iron Cobra, which is a double pedal format, but anyway, I have another one. My workhorse is upstairs, but it's the same deal. The Camco, and I'm playing a little bit, taking the pedal away, putting the new one in, playing it, the same thing, seeing how it feels, what it does, what it makes me play. Change the pedal, put another one in. Literally, I was doing this for about a good hour, interchanging and just really paying attention and see what it did to me and what I played. You can get a very good sense of something if you don't overthink and you just play and see what you play. If you're playing real fast, that pedal lends itself to speed. It's talking to you and it's inspiring you to play fast. If you're playing real slow stuff, same thing with sticks, with snare drums, with everything, hi-hats. If you try a set of hi-hats and you want to the first thing you do is something real slow and bluesy, there's a good chance that that's what that hi-hat is telling you it's about. If you pick up a set of hi-hats and you just go crazy on them, you don't know why, but you just do, there's a good chance that the sound and the resonance and the bounce is inspiring you to do that stuff. Now you have to kind of take the average experience. So don't rely on one moment, do it a few times and see if you keep coming back to that speed and that style. So that's what I was doing with all these pedals. The Speed King. And let me put this down. And I was going from this to this guy. And here is my Camco that I put the bass plate on. Now I did a video about this, a very extensive video just about this pedal. I love this pedal. And the Speed King taught me even more about this pedal, which is why I invite you to do these things like I'm doing, and don't just take them for granted. Have the experience yourself, and it feels better, and it really confirmed why I yet again why I adore my Camco pedal. Now, I know you're going to say the beater's different. You're right. The beater does matter. The bounce is different. But I'm also going to get to that too. So, the Camco in relationship to the Speed King. What's the difference? The Camco, first thing off, reliability. Durability. The Camco, you go, oh, thank you. I got a light pedal and it's very, very durable. There's a chain, there's a sprocket, the hinge plate is big and it's chunky enough that I don't have to worry about those teeth breaking, right? Even if half of one of those parts breaks, the other half is still bigger than what the Speed King is proposing to me as far as a hinge plate, I got a spring. It's outside of the column, so maybe it changed the spring maybe once, twice in its lifetime. Springs actually, you don't have to change them like crazy. You really don't. There's nothing to say about this pedal. Like I said, check out my other post. There's nothing to say. It's a simple design, and because of that, it has stood the test of time. It's a simple design that works. That's it. That is it. I mean, now they do have, I'm just seeing here, see that right there? There's one tooth, there's another right there. So if I were to undo this thing and let it fall, yes, there might be a spot right there. But when this is in, this part right here that you can take off actually reinforces that area. And the teeth are not used in the Camco to hold a pin. Right? I know it sounds stupid, but they're not used to hold a pin. The teeth are there just for position. So the stress is not on those teeth at all. And you might say, well, the teeth on the Camco are holding that chain. No, they're not. The chain goes through the teeth of its own set of teeth and then connects to a screw. You can see it right here. Right there. Okay? So those teeth are not used to hold anything. It's not a stress point at all. It's just a position. Now, this is a stress point with the pin. Okay? But you can see it's as thick as my finger on these two ends, and this is even bigger. So, and the fact that I put it on a base plate, it's not moving anywhere. This pedal is a blessing. First thing, that's the first thing you notice when you're playing it compared to the Speed King. Second thing, it is very, very light. And it was reminiscent of how light the Speed King was. That contributes to its speed. Third thing, because you can actually change the angle with the chain, you can manipulate this pedal to your liking. And if I wanted to, right now the chain is up here, you see, I could pull it, put it there, and it would raise the board. Yeah, it would raise the board, I'm sorry. And when this comes down, incidentally, that would mean that the pedal would not go down so far. So it feels easier to get that note. There's less distance to go. Now, some people might say, yeah, be careful because the Speed King starts at a lower position. You're right. It does. And that was also yet another thing that was kind of bothering me because I wanted it up a little higher. So it starts at a lower position and it ends at a lower position, right? So let's put them side to side and let's see. That's right. Still don't have the... Let's see here. Well, you can't really see that. They're close. Right? They're close. But you can see, you won't be able to see that right there. But if I'm looking from my angle here, the Speed King is about, not entirely, a centimeter, almost a centimeter lower than my Camco, than the footboard. Anyway, it's hard to see in this position, but something else I noticed. I was playing jazz stuff, blues stuff, shuffles, pop stuff, Motown stuff, and it occurred to me, first of all, the Camco was bouncing a lot more than the Speed King. It reminded me of a basketball. It just was taking off under my foot. Some of that has to do with the fact that I've played it for so long that my body is probably, my foot in particular, is tuned into how this thing moves more than the Speed King. But the spring mechanism and the way that and the height and just everything about this pedal, it's a different feel. And it seemed, my conclusion was that the Camco, unlike the Speed King, felt alive. My Camco felt alive under my foot. And my attention was more about that relationship, more so than the Speed King. The Speed King was telling me the bass drum was alive, but the Speed King wasn't there. It was a very light pedal, and I was hearing the bass drum. With the Camco, it was a nice balance. The bass drum was still there in my ear, my inner ear, but I also had a wonderful reaction with the pedal. It's the most alive pedal that I've ever played, the Camco. It's a very alive pedal. I don't know how else to explain that, but that's my feelings of the Camco. Moving on. So I'm switching now. I'm playing just like this, going from one to another, going back, checking out the differences. Here is my double pedal Iron Cobra. Right? Now this one is a beast. This one's amazing. It's strap. You can see the state of the strap. Anyway, this is, I could feel like throw it out the window and it would still be fine. That's the kind of feeling it is. The hinge plate has been incredibly, engineered. Yeah, this is just a beast. Now, what is this one in relation to the other ones? First of all, the first thing, and probably the glaring sentiment that I had, was durability. Reassurance. It's not going to break. It's absolutely not going to break. It's going to outlast me. That kind of feeling. Just an ultimate sense of reassurance. Stability. Almost impeccable precision. Almost. What you kind of probably get on heavier, high-end direct drive pedals. I have a Premier, I think it's called the EP120. It looks like a transformer. There's a sense of surgical precision with that pedal, and an airiness at the same time. I should pull that one out and try it, but I wasn't gonna. I'm sticking old school right now with this post. So durability, stability, strength, precision. And as I'm going through the other two, from this one to the Speed King, this one to the Camco, this one to the you know, back and forth, I'm starting to notice something. It's not as alive as my Camco. And I don't have the amount of breath that I was hearing in my inner ear of my bass drum when I play this one as I do with the two others. What's going on? Why? This is the Iron Cobra, folks, you know. And I use a hybrid version of the Iron Cobra for work. I love it. What's going on? Well, I'm going to explain what's going on with the next pedal, because the next pedal taught me about that. Having said all that, these three pedals, they are all amazing pedals for different reasons. And I'm going to get to that too. In my search for a piston pedal that was durable, I looked out and found the iconic Tama King Beat pedal. Hold on to everything. Here we go. This is your iconic Tama King Beat pedal. It's in perfect condition. Nothing's broken. The teeth here, which typically are broken, are not. Everything works as it should. Right? Everything's moving as it should. The latch isn't broken. This pedal is Tama's response, and drummers know this kind of thing. Premier's response to Ludwig, Tama's response, etc. DW's response to Camco. This pedal is Tama's response to the Speed King pedal. It's a piston-driven pedal. There it is. The piston is inside there. Same concept. You turn the rocker, right? Press down. The rocker has a form on it. Moves that, allows that piston to decontract, you know, if you want, decompress, and then when it comes back, when the footboard comes back to its original spot, that spring then compresses again. It was written as the strongest, most durable pedal in the world. Good for touring, good for the professional. This was the professional pedal from like 1979, 78 to 1983. Had a very short life, respectively, but it was considered to be the king. Billy Cobham was using it. Notably, he was, you know, one of the masters during this pedal's life. And it is absolutely amazing, this pedal. It is also extremely adjustable. As I said, this pedal was the response that Tama had from the Speed King, and I completely understand that. If I was Tama looking at the Speed King, I said, this pedal is going to break. Let's do the same idea, the piston-driven pedal, but let's make it indestructible. The Terminator, you know, of pedals. And they did. And it is, I mean, it even has the hinge, which is funny, they kept this, right? But they beefed it up. It's not with two rods, right? Which a lot of pedals were. The hinge plate is really robust. There's only one thing missing here. They used to have, I don't know what you call it, a platform right there. You screwed it in, and you could raise the back up a little bit under your heel. It was a very interesting concept. But you don't need it. I'm not used to having that anyway. The board itself, you can see, is slightly bent. That's done on purpose. It's one of their ideas. You unscrew this, and you can change the beater position. We're talking pre-80s, right? The beater itself, basically what they did was they fixed everything that was wrong with the Speed King. The beater itself was not just a screw that pushes onto a metal rod. I've said this in my other videos. That concept is terrible. You want a screw that works as a clamp. So there's a clamp, the screw goes in and it clamps things shut. It's not just pressing on a piece of metal. That breaks or strips out. So they did that. They have a clamp, right? It's exactly the same concept we have on our clutches for hi-hats. You screw, as you screw, the bar is clamped to the other side, right? Same deal. It is a direct drive, which is super cool. Direct drive. The latch is very robust, big. The teeth are very big and sturdy on both ends, whether it's here or here. This pedal is amazing. It's amazing. And ready, folks? It is the quietest pedal I've ever played in my life. This pedal is, you can't hear it. You can feel it, but you can't hear it. The spring is encased, it's closed, so that's, and it was said that its durability is like, I don't know, 13,000 cycles or something like that. Some crazy number. But anyway, it's all enclosed. So you're not hearing any squeakiness. There's no leakage of that grease. It's almost like airplane quality, you know? Like this whole system here, it's just a beast. This is just an amazing piece of technology in a pedal. They just went over the top with this thing. You feel, I mentioned pedals that felt like surgical with the Iron Cobra. This pedal is even more precise. This pedal, I have never played a pedal that had this much precision under my foot. Not only because it's a piston, the board stays with your foot, right? But the robustness of it, the durability of everything, and the angles, and it just feels like a high-tech piece of machinery, mechanics, like NASA built it. It feels like that. You know, what you would expect from a NASA engineer. It feels like this. Literally amazing. Literally amazing. I'm not really sure how I'm going to use it. I have to spend some more time with it. Tama King beat. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I do have one criticism though. And this criticism taught me a lot about all of my pedals. And this is the one that taught me that. It's very heavy. It's probably the heaviest pedal of all my pedals. Even though it's aluminum, it is very heavy. Out of all of the pedals that I've shown you today, the Speed King, I'm going to review here. The Speed King, I felt the bass drum. I heard the bass drum. And I went from this one directly to the Speed King because that was my point of reference. I wasn't comparing all of these to the Camco. This one, the King Beat, is the response to the Speed King, which is what I wanted, which is what I found, and I love it. I'm not getting rid of it. So so this one, the ultimate comparison, this one to the Speed King. What did I notice? Vibration. I felt the vibration of the note in my foot through my shoe with the Speed King. With this pedal, the King Beat, no vibration. It's so heavy. It's so solid. The big bass boom doesn't affect it, which is advantageous in certain situations. And sometimes it's not. But that boom was not doing anything to the pedal. The vibrations coming up through the pedal, up through your leg, through your foot, your ankle, your nothing with the King Beat. It is silent. Really silent. Not only does it not make any like clinky, clanky sounds, but you don't have any sense of vibration being passed through the pedal to your foot, to your leg, to your knee, to your, nothing. The Speed King you do. Now, so I said, wow, that, I never noticed that before. And I did, but I didn't, So let me try that. So let's take that subject and go to the other pedals. Camco, King Beat. Iron Cobra, King Beat. The Iron Cobra is also very, very, I don't want to say dead, but maybe a better word would be dry. I don't like using negative terms like this with gear, but anyway. The Iron Cobra is a very quiet pedal. This one. Right? Very, very quiet pedal. It's so heavy that vibration is not coming through the pedal into your leg. It's a very dry, dead, let's say cold. It's a very cold state that you feel, which lends itself to it calls for the for you to kind of test it out, as if to say, oh really, you think you can't be budged at all, so then you are more inclined to try ultra precise drumming with it, very very intense patterns that on a pedal where you feel the vibration coming through the bass drum up to you might interfere with you keeping up with the patterns you're trying to do, which notoriously is exactly what Billy Cobham was all about back in that day. He was doing a lot of fusion music, and it makes sense that, you know, he was playing this pedal. It's hand in hand. The Iron Cobra does it not as much as the King Beat. The King Beat really is the king of that, really. The quietest, not only mechanically, but in the vibrations. Then I get to my Camco. And maybe I'm just biased, I guess. But the Camco, again, was taken off. It was like alive right under my foot. And the vibrations were overwhelming. Out of all of the pedals that I showed you today, the relationship, the vibrations of the bass note that you play being absorbed through the Camco. Now, even on a bass plate, the pedal was still the most alive of all of these pedals. Amazing. Just hands down, amazing. The complete opposite of the King Beat. Now, does that mean that the King Beat doesn't have its place in my studio? No. I'm going to see where it belongs. Does it mean that my Speed King doesn't have a place? No. I'm going to see where that belongs. I really like the breath that the Speed King makes me hear in the bass drum. The relationship with the pedal is not even close to the Camco, but there's something about the breath that's created playing a Speed King that makes sense in certain jazz situations, in certain folk situations. John Bonham used it in rock, and he's known to have a very big bass drum sound. Coincidence? Charlie Watts used it in the Rolling Stones. He's got a great folky, bluesy pocket that you absolutely have to have a good bass drum sound with. Phil Collins has an impeccable bass drum sound in the pop world, and they were all using Speed Kings, right? So it definitely has earned its weight in the industry. But we're all different, and I think I would tend to use it on folky stuff, jazz stuff. It'd be interesting to get it out of its comfort zone even more. I don't know. Now Camco, a lot of people use Camco, and it is why DW5000 is still reigning across the industries, because it's modeled right after the Camco. Technically, right after it. So there's something to say about the Camco. Not only all the drummers that are using it still, it's been reissued. Elvin Jones loved it, used it, so it's got its own place too. And in my opinion, it's because the Camco bridges those two concepts, breath and bounce. And in the Camco, it comes together in a very obvious feeling of liveliness, something alive under your foot. That you have to pay attention to if you're going to play it right. That's why I said in my other post about the Camco is such a good pedal, it will teach you how to play. Because of that liveliness that it has. It's alive under your foot, and it's talking to you in the way it's moving. It's an amazing pedal. So I hope, that's all I got for you. I hope that was informative. This guy, the King Beat, I'm going to be doing something else with this for sure to share more about this pedal. This is a behemoth of a pedal, the King Beat. And nowadays, everybody is into a lot of other pedals. You can find this for very cheap, as did I, and get your hands on something that literally feels like it was designed by NASA. Really. It does have a 70s vibe to it with the look, but the feel is absolutely astounding. I wouldn't say it's alive. It's alive in a very, I don't know, high-tech way. Still love my Camco though. More news soon. Thanks for checking this channel out. There's always a ton on the way. Ciao.